I'm R.J. Munt, president of the Cremation Society of Wisconsin and Stokes Crockett Munt Funeral Chapel. I've been in funeral service for many, many years. Dealt with a lot of grief situations. First of all, what is grief? Grief is our response to a loss of something. And if you would scale the different types of grief, the most traumatic kind of grief is the loss of a spouse or a child. That's the number one stress factor, if you would rate it. If you look at other changes in our life, like we move out of our residence, we change jobs, that creates a grief response as well. As does divorce creates a grief response, because that's the death of a marriage. But one axiom I always like to tell people is that where there's no love, there is no grief. The more profoundly we love, the more it hurts when we lose somebody. And grief can do strange things to us. It challenges us, our psyche, and our psyche affects our body. One of the common things that happens to people in a traumatic grief situation is they are very numb. They're in shock. Their immune response becomes suppressed. So they're more susceptible to everything. Statistics have shown this and proven this, that people that are in a bereavement situation have higher incidence of cancer, heart disease, higher suicide rates, higher drug and alcohol abuse rates, all those kinds of things. When we lose somebody we love, it's the most traumatic thing that'll ever happen to us. Physical illness is horrible. It's tough to be in the medical system today, especially when we feel that it's a very broken system, yet it's still helping a lot of people. But when somebody dies, it challenges us not only psychologically, but it also challenges us on a spiritual level. What do we believe? Where are we going? What happens after death? Is this all in vain, or do we go somewhere else and have another afterlife? People's belief systems enter into their grief response. And many times, if they have strong religious convictions, they might have an easier time with adjusting to the loss of a loved one, because they feel that they're going to be with them again someday. And conversely, if people have no religious belief whatsoever, that when we're dead, they might have a horrible time with this, because they have nothing positive to believe in. It's all in vain, so to speak. Everybody grieves. Your grief is as individual as your own fingerprints. And oftentimes I tell people, please, you all love this person, but you're all going to have a different kind of grief response, directly related to your relationship with that person, or lack thereof. Another thing that can happen to people, we don't only grieve for the loss, but sometimes we grieve for what might have been. The thing we didn't say to them. Maybe we had an argument and we didn't patch it up, and they died suddenly. That's what causes us to harbor guilt for the woulda, shoulda, coulda. And we tend to beat ourselves up. And we always encourage people not to do that. Don't beat yourself up. Talk about the positive things. And many times we'll ask our families open-ended questions to try and get to know intimate details about this individual, to help them design a meaningful service that can commemorate that person and also help them with their grief work. Because there is no time limit on grief. Some people grieve their entire life, and they never really get over it, so to speak. It's a process, and it's different for different people. And an example of an abnormal form of grief, which we don't see very often. Many, many years ago, we had a situation. We had a funeral for a man. He was entombed in a mausoleum in a major city that I was working in. And his wife had a horrible time. She just could not believe that he was dead. When she came in to view him, she didn't even acknowledge that it was him. She said, "Where's my husband? What did you do with him?" She couldn't wrap her mind around this. So we went ahead with the funeral. He was entombed. 3 times that year, she paid to have that mausoleum opened again, to view him again, 3 times. And finally the cemetery said, "We're not going to do this anymore. We can't." She never got over it. She never got over it. I had another situation, and this is another form of abnormal grief. A man came in, and I was a raw recruit. I was a very inexperienced intern, very early in my career. And this man came in to make funeral arrangements. Told me his wife had died. I walked him through the process, got all the information, we planned everything. And I was so proud because my boss wasn't there. He was golfing or something. And so he comes in the next day, and I show him this arrangement that I made. He said, "Oh, he comes in every year, right around the same time. 10 years in a row. He never got over it. He relived it every year around the same time."